morning, everyone.
Good morning, Mary.
Thanks for inviting me here today. Today I'm going to share a little bit about where I've come from and why I've been asked to speak to you today. And as Nick was just saying, often people are asking what is the next step. So today I've been asked, and I've been doing a few of these talks around the local area, I've been asked to just talk to people about what is the next step in life. I'm not an expertise. I don't have expertise in finance or anything like that, but I do have some pretty good ideas on assisting people in their thinking and what is available for the next step. And the next step for everyone could be different. So I think it's for everyone in any age. Life is always evolving and things are changing. So that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today. But first I thought I might start with telling you a story. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's good.
If this microphone is a bit funny, just yell at me or throw something at me. Okay. All right. So I'd like to tell you a story about John and Barbara. John and Barbara were a couple that I met about this time last year when I was a licensed real estate agent working in Wollongong. And John and Barbara were originally from Sydney, and they had downsized to a duplex in Fig Tree. And they had a lovely duplex. It was very nice, but they rang me and they wanted to sell their duplex because they were moving into a lifestyle community down the south coast. And so I was quite interested in what they were doing and what their next step was. And so we sort of got talking, and then they started asking me a lot of questions. So I guess it intrigued me about what happens with, as a real estate agent. I was a real estate agent for 7 years. I just sold people's houses and saw them move on, but I didn't really know what their next step, really where a lot of people were going or what their options were. So I guess it was about then that I started looking for some of my clients on what is available. And then in the process of listing John and Barbara's house, I met a whole bunch of people who were about 70 to 95 years old, and they all came because they were all downsizing out of their big house into like a smaller duplex, and that's what they were after. So I met them and consequently appraised all their houses. And just some of the questions they were asking me, they were saying, when is a good time to downsize? What happens if one of us gets sick? Do you think we're being ripped off? Lots of questions were being asked. Should we go into one of those community lifestyle villages, or should we not? Are we going to get ripped off? And there was lots of questions from lots of people, and it really made me, like I said, investigate what is there, what is out there outside the real estate realm. Because in real estate, you list and you sell a property. Whereas I thought there seems to be a huge need for people to know more and get some of their questions answered about the next step. And I think, so I sort of made it my mission, I guess, about a year ago to educate myself on what was available. And consequently, in doing that, I was so impressed with IRT, I actually left my real estate career and started with them at the beginning of the year. So that's how that. But before we get into that, I just wanted to say about that time, there is a book. Has anyone heard of the book called Who Moved My Cheese by Spencer Johnson? Yes? A few? Yeah? And what did you think of the book? Amazing, yeah. I used to give that book to some of my clients, and I may go and get another lot when I was thinking of putting these speeches together, because really it's the book Who Moved My Cheese. It's a small, easy read book, but it's got a fantastic message. And the message is this: it's an amusing and enlightening story of 4 characters who live in a maze, and they look for cheese to make them happy. Cheese is a metaphor for what you might want in life. You might want a good job, a loving relationship, money, possessions, health, spiritual peace of mind. It's a lot of things that you may want in life. And the maze is where you may find them. And the author in this book, Spencer Johnson, explains how to adapt and change quickly, enjoy change, and be ready to change again. And I think all of us, be our 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. I've got some clients that are still at home in their 90s, which is fantastic, saying to me, I think I'm ready for a change. So we've always got change. This book, Who Moved My Cheese, is an excellent book because it actually talks about two men and two mice and how they go through this maze and how they're looking for the cheese, which is what makes them happy, and just their attitude on when things change. Is that a good thing or is it a bad thing? Do I stay here? Do I move on? So I won't elaborate too much more, but if you get a chance to have a look at the book, or I think I'll buy Mum and Dad the ebook because they're getting into listening to those. What do you call those? The audio books. It's a really, really good book. So it's one that I recommend to my clients because it just assists you in change. And change is one thing that's inevitable for all of us. So before I sort of talk a little bit more about IRT, I have been asked to share a little bit of my story and why I sort of got to talk to you all today. So a little bit of my background, as Nev mentioned. I grew up in Nowra and Culburra. I went to St Michael's Catholic Primary and did a couple of years at Bontempelli High as well before Dad moved. Mum was a nurse and Dad was in the ambulance, as I think a few of you might know that here. So I guess for me that developed my interest in health and in caring for others. And in all of the things that I've done, I pretty much have, there seems to be that common flow. And I think it was Mrs. Elford said today that you're always doing, you're a doer, you're always finding something to do, and that's true. In 1983, I did my nurse training at Concord Repat Hospital. In 1991, I graduated with a diploma in welfare, so I have that background as well. And in 2008, I became a licensed real estate agent and did that for 7 years. And in 2016, as we have mentioned, I became a sales consultant for IRT Greenwell Gardens, which is in Nowra, and IRT Culburra Beach, obviously at Culburra. So that is my new role, is assisting people in those areas. So I assist people with moving into the over 55s lifestyle communities, also in low care or high care or dementia care, or even at home. We have a whole facility. So that's basically what's brought me here today. Just a couple of stories, I guess is probably a good way of just sharing, because most of us can relate to stories. In my short time of doing this job, I met a lovely couple earlier this year I'll call them Jerry and Beryl. And they're a lovely couple. They were from Sydney and downsized to Nowra about 5 years ago. And they've been on the wait list for the community lifestyle villas. We have 44 lifestyle villas in Greenwell Gardens, and they were on the wait list for quite a while. They came along, and he is still working as a quantum surveyor, and she is quite busy in her roles of volunteering, etc. They're quite able-bodied. They do lots of exercise and walking and things like that. So they're certainly not in need of going to a lifestyle community. But they said that they found that the lawn was getting too much, and the housework was getting a bit much because the house was quite big. And I think what Beryl shared with me, she said, we love having visitors, but when they come, I become their servant. So their idea of moving into, so they accepted and moved into one of our lifestyle villas earlier in the year, and they just constantly tell me they couldn't be happier. They said all their relatives come from Sydney and they can stay in the motel and come and have a meal and they can visit anytime they like. But yeah, I mean, they're welcome to stay, but she just said it's just so nice that by then, if you like, downsizing has really improved their life. I see him walking off to the markets, the fruit markets there at Nowra. He just walks off there now, and he said, "Oh, I'm going, to get the fish for supper or whatever." And so they've really improved their lifestyle, and yeah, it's a good thing. I think there is a misconception with going into community villas and community lifestyle living that it's actually going backwards. But really, what I've seen in the short time I've been there, it's actually more a lifestyle change. It's actually improving your, simplifying things so you can improve your lifestyle. Another example was a lovely couple I met out at Culburra were John and Jan. And Jan didn't drive, and John was very unwell. And they were living in a relatively small flat house, so you could say that they didn't really need to downsize. But he was very unwell, and they had a very big yard. And she was really worried about what would happen for the next step. What happens if he then becomes unwell? What does she do? How would she go to visit him if he needed more care, etc.? So John and Jan moved into our Culburra lifestyle villas about 6 weeks ago. Now, John still isn't very well. I did meet him at the Senior Citizens Culburra Club. They asked me to go and speak there, and I met him. And that's the first time I've met him. So he's not well, but they're still together in their community lifestyle villa. And she has a scooter, so she rides around on the scooter, and she said, if it ever comes to the point where he then can't live with me, the facility is just there, and I can scoot up and see him. And so it is really good. And once again, she said, wow, our lifestyle's improved. So that's another good story with them. Probably the last one I'll mention is a couple called Des and Bronwyn. Now, they were probably the first people that I met when I came there in January. A lot of people ask me, they think that going into a care facility is like, that's it, that's the end of the road, like, one step in the care facility and you're up to heaven. And is that true? Yeah, people think, yeah, that's it, I've got to be really on my last legs before I go there. Well, this couple, Des and Bronwyn, had been living in a lifestyle villa for about 7 years. They're lovely, they're not actually that old, but she was quite unwell. And when I met them in January, he approached me and he said, Mary, I think we're ready to go into low care. Now in low care, you get your meals done and, you get your laundry taken care of, and everything is basically all of those things that you're doing at home taken care of for you. So Des said, look, I'm okay, but I'm worried about Bronwyn, and if anything happens to me, I want to take care of her. So they moved into 2 rooms in our low care at Culburra. And I said to him, well, I can't promise that you will be, once you move into care, each person has their own room. So it did take me a couple of months, and they had their own room, they weren't together. And within a couple of months, a room came next to Bronwyn's. They moved 2 beds into her room. They made the other one a lounge room. And he constantly knocks on my door, and he's so grateful that their life is so much better now because all of the burden has been taken away. And if he needs that nursing care for her, it's there. And he just said their quality of life has improved tremendously because they had options. And I guess that's really what I'm here today, not even just speaking to everyone here today, but if you know people who are unwell or they have a spouse that's unwell or you're not really sure about what the next step is, our message is we have help at hand and we are here available to answer any questions and to help anyone who you may need, who you may know. People. And usually it's often when I do these talks, it's often the people that aren't here are the people that require some assistance. So that's a couple of stories about a few people. So I've mentioned before, in IRT, we offer IRT at home. So that is a service where we'll come to your homes because that's the ultimate. If people are finding it difficult to mow their lawns, shower, getting to the shops for meals, any services at all, we're able to assist you. And that's the ultimate. We love that. We love being able to help you at home. So that is one of what IRT do now, is IRT at home. And then, as I've mentioned, we have all our care facilities, low care, high care and dementia specific unit at Greenwell Gardens. It's a beautiful place there. I don't know if anyone's been before, or if you're ever interested in a tour or bringing anyone, I'm the person to see, so happy to help you. But it really isn't a hard job for me because it's such a lovely place. It really does sell itself, and we are full again. We are often full, but it is a really good facility. And the same at Culburra. Culburra is all but I think one bed full at the moment as well, and it's just the care is just second to none. Having been a nurse in the 80s and I worked at Shoalhaven in Kiama in the nursing home there, and can I tell you, things have really changed even since the 80s. So I'm sure even then they changed a lot since the earlier when my mum was nursing. But certainly, the care has changed a lot, so it's easy for me to promote. Okay, so that's probably all I have to share with you today. But I would love some questions. I guess I'd just like to say, just consider where you're at. Consider, if we look back at that book about Who Moved My Cheese, that, our lives are changing. You're welcome to put your head in the sand and think that things will never change, and that's okay. But it is worth having a look around and see, well, maybe I should think about putting my name on a list. A few people have approached me and said, we've had our name on the list for 10 years and that's fantastic, and we're not ready yet, and that's even better. But it is worth having some contingency plan, be it with IRT or someone else. I think it's really worth considering, because all of our lives are constantly changing, and really what we're all looking for is an optimum health and happiness. IRT strive to create communities where seniors achieve their optimum quality of life. So if I can assist you at all, or if you know of someone else I can assist, please feel free to come and see me. I'll be here for a little while, and I'm happy to assist you. So one of the requirements is to have an aged care assessment. So that is, you may have known as an ACAT. An ACAT is called an aged care assessment team that come and do an assessment for you. So it is a government requirement for them to come in and do an assessment, and then they will assess you at a certain level and certain needs, and then you talk to a provider, and the government support you. The government is actually excellent at supporting in all levels of aged care. So that is a requirement. There are a lot of changes that are happening in January next year. That will be looking at the, basically you're looking, whenever you're coming into a facility, not lifestyle, but into a facility, we do ask you to do, or the government asks you to do an income and asset assessment. So in doing an income and asset assessment, obviously they assess anything that you own, or any money that you are earning, shares or any other money coming in. So from January the 1st, there's going to be quite restricted allowance in what they allow, what the support that the government are going to give you. It is different for everyone, so I haven't got all the specific here, but I do know that, say for example, in coming into care, when people come into care, there's two prices. One is for care and one is for the accommodation. Now, many people at the moment are supported by the government, and some are completely, fully supported on accommodation. After January the 1st, that won't be the case. So it's going to be tougher for people to get to pay accommodation, etc., and to get the care. They still will get it, but the government are definitely changing. I didn't bring the policy with me. Question. With the ACAT assessment, no, it is purely on a needs basis. So it's almost like you've got the money side over here and the care side over here, and they don't talk to each other. So with the care side, that is where you get the aged care team come in for the ACAT assessment, and they're all about the care. So they assess you, they don't ask you what you've got or what you haven't got or if you've got any rich relatives or whatever. It's all about what your needs are, how you're presenting, can you shower yourself, can you feed yourself, can you get to the shops. It's all about your care with the ACAT. So in doing an income and asset assessment, you have, by doing an income and asset assessment, that results in a means tested fee. And yes, that would affect what assistance you may get at home. But the actual assessment of care, of course, it is whatever it is. Another question I get asked a lot on the ACAT assessment is, if I've had one like 5 years ago, do I need to have another one? And the answer is no. Apparently they used to expire. Now, obviously, as we talked about, we're all changing and, some of us are not getting any better or well. So if you have had, or you know of anyone who has had a serious a stroke or, their condition has deteriorated, yes, it's probably good to get a review, but it's not a government requirement now to have to get that. We still will consider people. So if anyone is looking or they know of anyone looking to come into a care facility, they come see me. I look at the ACAT assessment. I give that to the care manager. If we feel we need another one and it's too old and it's changed a lot by talking to the family, then we organise that. But as it stands at the moment, they don't expire, which is good news for all of you that are getting one now. John and Jan now live in our community village. If and when John requires to go to care, we need an ACAT assessment. We also need a room available, which when that all marries up together, we can accept John. The difference being is, I said before, coming into care, you need to pay for accommodation and care. If someone from our lifestyle village needs accommodation, needs to go into care, we waiver accommodation. Now, the accommodation can be up to $240,000 refundable accommodation deposit. For John and Jan, he won't need to pay that. He will only need to pay care, which is 85% of the single age pension, and that's what the government set, and then a possible means tested care fee from an income and asset assessment. So I'll just say that again. So for John and Jan, if John needs to go into care, he will not need to pay. We cover the first person in accommodation if the second person is in our lifestyle village. If the second person comes over, which Mr. and Mrs. Gray have just done that, he got in, she came first. She came first. 2 weeks later he came, and the money that he put on his villa went on his room. So that money still stays as a refundable amount within IRT, and which means the family will get it back at the end of the day. But because they were in a lifestyle villa, he did not have to pay accommodation. Had he been living at home, he would have had to pay that. So it's a really big thing. I think it's a huge benefit, and it's a huge gift from IRT to be able to accommodate that. Yeah, look, IRT, I don't know if you know a lot about, IRT stands for Illawarra Retirement Trust. They are moving at a tremendous rate at the moment. I don't know if they've got any plans for Bomaderry, but they started in Wollongong, as in Illawarra Retirement Trust. They're right down now to Dalmany, and then out to Canberra, and then they've just opened 4 new facilities in Queensland, and they're right throughout Sydney, Penshurst, and over at Campbelltown as well, and we're all IRT, all under the one banner. So it is huge, but I'll put in the dibs for Bomaderry. I think that'd be great. And you're not the first person to ask me that either. Yeah. Yes. I obviously talk to people on a daily basis about their next steps, And I wish I had 100 to sell, because I could easily house people that are looking for a simplified lifestyle where they still get independence, where they still have a good, they can drive their car in, they've got a 2-bedroom villa, they can still have a garden, they can, so if they're building more at Shoalhaven, it's fantastic. We still have quite a few people come down from Bundina, Mossvale, Barrel, that have all got their names on a wait list in Greenwall Gardens, so there certainly is a need for more retirement villages, definitely. Another question I get asked, and this is probably quite a pertinent one, because I know there's a couple of people in the room that have said to me, I've got my name on the list and you send me letters, and because we do. What happens in Lifestyle Village is this. When we get a villa come up, first thing we do is we refurbish it. So I get the workmen in there and I crack the whip and they do almost everything I ask them to do. Sometimes we do new kitchens, new bathrooms, sometimes we just refurb. So it takes about 2 or 3 months. So I've got a pretty good idea if there's anything coming up. Then we have an open day, we invite, we send out letters. If you're interested, welcome to come along. If you're not, that's okay, your name stays on the list. So when people come along to the open days, they then can put in expressions of interest in. I collect all those. At the end of the day, I ring the person who's been on the wait list the longest. Maybe they're not interested, the next one's not interested, and then it doesn't take me long. Always by the end of the day, I've got people, I have them sold, no problem. Then the biggest question is this. People say, well, hang on a minute. You're telling me I've got to buy this villa and I've got to sell my house. How does that work? And this is another thing I really love about IRT. From a real estate agent that used to have to say, well, you just have to sort it out. You have to be out that day and those people are buying it and you've got to have the keys in by 4 o'clock. IRT, very different, and I love this. And this is the way it works on settlement day. If you are successful and accept an offer on a villa at IRT, we work with you. You put your house on the market and then you let me know. And I've just sold 2 in Greenwall Gardens and I just got a phone call saying that someone sold their house and they're going to settle on the 16th of December. So then I said, okay, well then if your house is settling on the 16th of December, IRT will help you out and we'll settle on the same day. So we allow you 3 months to organise whatever you need, and even if it needs to be longer, we assist you. So we work alongside, it's what you call a simultaneous settlement, and we work alongside you for a simultaneous settlement depending on when you settle your house. So I think that's very good of IRT to do that. Not only that, is we allow 3 working days prior to your settlement to give you the keys and say, move in. Have it 3 days early. You can't stay overnight, but in working hours you can have the keys, you can give it to your kids and tell your kids to do all the work or whatever, and we allow you 3 working days to move everything in, so just to eliminate the pressure off you in moving into our lifestyle community villas. So that's pretty good, isn't it? I think it's excellent. Yeah, certainly from the outside real estate world, that never happened. It was quite stressful. So this just allows a buffer zone for people they've got a really good model in allowing systems to work with the community, and I think that's fantastic. 2 scenarios can happen. Someone in lifestyle can move into an IRT care, and we've covered what happens there. If they move into another lifestyle facility or another care facility, they will get, depending on which package, there's 4 options that people can choose when they come in. If they have choose the one where they get refundable accommodation, the refundable 100% of money back, then it takes up to 6 months. So it's really until I sell it. So some of them I've been selling quite quickly. So out at Colborough, there was one lady who was in there for only about, probably only about 18 months, or maybe not even a year. She lived there on her own. She hardly lived there, and she decided to relocate to Queensland. And the family said, do we need to wait for 6 months to get the money back? in that situation, no. We didn't need to refurb and put new kitchens in because it was hardly touched. So we just sent the painters in. It was a disabled villa, so I already had a disabled couple ready wanting it. So I had that sold within 6 weeks. They got their money within 2.5 months, I think. So that was quite quick. Usually it depends how quickly we can sell it, but the guarantee is 6 months. So that's the answer, is 6 months. It's interesting hearing that story because I do get a lot of people complimenting IRT on how quickly they get the money back. I guess maybe because I have been in real estate and I realise that money, I mean, how can people live without it? Like, they need that money to go to their next destination, wherever that is. So, I think there needs to be some questions answered on that. But the policy is 6 months, and it's been my experience that is the outside. And obviously in my job as a sales consultant for IRT, I talk to lots of children, lots of family members that are caring for people. And one lady, Ruth, I was just thinking when you were speaking then, Ruth was saying, I actually love living in my home, but she actually said, I'm actually really lonely. But I think I'm going to stay here, was when I first met her. Then she wanted to look at a lifestyle villa. About the time she came and looked at the villa, she had just had a TIA, which is like a mini stroke, like a trans-ischemic attack. So she was just a little bit of Bell's palsy on her face. And she said, I still, want to live in my own home, but I'm a bit lonely and now I'm not as well as I was a month ago. So she was looking at the lifestyle villa. She was having a little bit of trouble walking around, and I said, Ruth, do you want to come over here and look in the care facility? Just come and have a look around and see what you think. Loves it. She's been there for 6 months, and her daughter was relieved because the daughter felt that might be good for her. She goes out on activities. She still does things she did before, but she's she's quite well, and unfortunately she did have a fall about a month or so after she moved in, but because she was there, we were there, the care staff were there to help her, etc. So I think that's a really good point, and it's a personal choice, and that's a beautiful thing that you've got that choice. So yeah, so keep disgustingly well. The 4 options that you have in moving into lifestyle. So the first option you have is what we call option 1, is called a donation. So depending on what site, let's call it around about 179,000. So you can get a two-bedroom villa with 1 bathroom, beautiful kitchen, and 1 garage living for about 179,000 around. They vary when you come and see them at an open. I'll tell you what that one is. But for the purpose of the example, we'll use that. So option 1 is 179,000, which means to move in, you only need to pay 179,000. However, it is a donation, so that means when you move out, that money doesn't go with you. It stays as a donation to IRT. If you go into a care facility, that carries, and you don't need to pay accommodation into care, but that is the lowest option. Option 4 is the highest option. So say option 4 might be 370,000, but option 4 is 100% refundable. So you get exactly the same property, the 2-bedroom, nice kitchen, nice bathroom, garage attached, everything for say 275, but you get it all back at the end of the day. So, and the options in between. So I said option 1 and option 4. So option 2 is, say for example, we'll call it 250,000, and that is a 5% retention for up to 5 years. So 5% retention. If you're there for 2 years, you only pay 10%. If you're there for 10 years, you only pay 25%. So option 2 is 5% retention for 5 years. Option 3 is only a 2% retention for 5 years. And option 4, of course, is 100% refundable. Why do we do that? Because people are coming from, we want to be available to everybody. Some people choose option 1, So I've sold a few people when they have a lot of money, they're driving the BMWs, but they choose option 1 because they said, oh, we'll do option 1 and go on cruises and spend our next 5 years doing other things. And other people say, oh, I'll choose option 4, so at the end of the day, the children get all the money back. So it really is options that are available for personal preference, and we always advise people to seek financial advice on that. So does that cover it? So the 4 options, option 1, a donation, option 4, fully refundable, and there's a couple there with retentions in the middle.
How do the retentions work?
Okay, the retentions work. So say, for example, we'll pick 250,000. So if you entered into a lifestyle community villa, if you bought a villa at 250,000 and you had it was the second option, which is 5% retention for 5 years. So that money would stay with IRT, the 250. And then after 5, 10 or however till you left, you would get that 250 back minus that 25%. So it's 5% retention for a maximum of 5 years. So 5% retention for a maximum of 5 years, that's option 2. Option 3 is 2% retention for a maximum of 5 years. So that might be an easier one to calculate. So on the 250,000, if you were there for 5 years, it would be a total of 25,000. So at the end of the day, you get to live there for 10 years and you get 225,000 back.
So the 5 years is the cap, and then you're living.
And you can live there for as long as you like, yeah. And I think it's really important to have that because historically, the aged have really been ripped off, and we're really not about that. We're really about providing that service. There is an upkeep. It's a little bit like if you move into a villa, in general normal real estate, if you like, that's not sort of privately owned. You would have a thing called strata. Is everything a strata? Strata? Yeah, everyone's familiar with strata. Okay, so and strata is a fee that you pay for things like looking after the lawns or outside insurances, and if something happens, if you're an apartment block and something happens to the roof or a tree falls on it, if something happens to the power, all of that is affected by strata and covered by strata. So if you live in a unit, some of you may, and you may already pay strata. In these villas, there is a fee, and it's around about 200. It depends in which site. We also have sites in St George's Basin and further down the coast, so they do vary from site to site. But it's a different price for a single and a couple, but it's around about $200 a fortnight, and that covers everything: your outside insurance, your lawns. In the villas, we also provide all your white goods. So it covers anything going wrong with your white goods. So we will supply you a new fridge, freezer, washing machine and dryer, and it covers maintenance of all of those, as well as any maintenance of anything needing to be done in your property. What else does it cover? It covers all your water usage. What it doesn't cover your electricity and your phone bill and your gas bill, if there's gas on. You pay those. Right. But yes, it does cover rates and it does cover water. They're exactly the same product. They're exactly the same property. Same property, yeah. That's the amazing thing. And when people say, oh, what's the difference in price? And I say, well, 200,000. And they say, well, what's the difference? What are you getting for that? It's exactly the same thing. It's just an option on how you want to finance. Well, in Greenwell Gardens, we have 44 villas that are all 2-bedroom villas with 1-car garage. I think there may be 5 designs. But they're all beautiful 2-bedroom villas. At Colborough, we have 4 single 1-room villas and 37 2-bedroom villas, and that's all we have. St George's Basin have got some 3-bedroom ones down there. And they think, I don't know if you've been into Greenwell Gardens, but as you drive in, you have a full care facility on the left, and on the right you have lifestyle. And they say, when I come here, where's the button? There is none. It is independent living, and it's which is different to where Dad is at Shoalhaven. So that's more like a semi. Whereas what we offer down here in these two facilities are independent living. So if you become unwell, you go to the doctor. If you become really unwell, you call the ambulance like you would in your own home now. So yes, same but different to where you are, Dad. Yeah, but it is really good to bring that up, and I think it's good because we don't want people to think that we're misleading. Obviously, in the middle of the night, if a resident is locked out or if they've become unwell, yes, we have been down there, and at Culburra we've brought them up and we've actually housed them overnight and looked after them. But generally, there is no call button for that reason. We're not staffed in the facility for that extra care. And fortunately, we live in an amazing country where the Australian government, when the chips are down, cover you very, very well. And that's probably really opened my eyes to there's been a significant number of people. They have come to our care facility who one man was living in his car, another living in fairly substandard accommodation, and we are able to accommodate them. There are circumstances, and the government do cover them, and we are able to accommodate them where they can be in our facility with just care only, which comes from their pension. So yeah, it is possible. Obviously, we can't all help everybody, but certainly there are circumstances, and there was someone I was talking here earlier this morning about a 90-year-old, yeah, and he's just decided he wants to go on the wait list, and the wait list is quite substantial. But I had just talked to that fellow myself a couple of weeks ago, and we're trying to see how we can assist him. So it may not be in the traditional methods, but yeah, we finances shouldn't be a barrier when it comes to people's health and well-being. And just on that note, and I might just wrap up on that note, obviously I like where I work at IRT, but one excellent thing I love about it is if we're talking about the care facility, when we have residents in the care facility, none of the nursing staff or any of the other staff or the physios and all the other staff that are there, no one knows how much money you pay to get in. The only person that knows that is me and IRT. So none of the nurses or the care staff know. So everybody from room to room all get treated the same. So that's a pretty good thing. All right, thank you very much.